We're kicking off the new year 2025 with the Big City Greens movie Spacecation. When this movie came out weeks before the summer, I didn't have the interest into making a review out of it, which is why I went through the double gainer story from Haley's on it and the Big City Greens episode from season 2 to make up for making a video involving Big City Greens. It's just thinking about this movie when Disney advertised it, I really feel like that saving it for later is the better choice, considering that there were other projects that I ended up saving for later after the summer, and including Halloween Mania 2 back in October. So when I got the chance to watch this movie, I found it enjoyable to say the least, and I had to watch it again in preparation for this review. So, thinking about this movie, it really feels like that this is the type of movie that isn't meant to go all out, even if the characters are going into outer space. Because when I heard about the premise of the characters going into outer space, I really feel like it is going to be bigger, but not how I picture it when it comes to a cartoon having a movie of its own, considering in other cartoon movies, when they do their own thing on being big, it's mainly remained on Earth. So, the way I see it, with these characters going into outer space, especially after watching the series, it just kind of feels a little off, and upon watching this movie from beginning to end, while I did feel entertained, you can tell that this is basically an episode from the show, except that it's extended. Granted, that argument can go to other cartoon movies, but at the same time, this really feels like an extended Big City Greens episode, judging of how that the characters are going through a situation in outer space, even though it's mostly Cricket who brought them into space in the first place. With this show lasting longer, while Amphibia, The Outhouse, and The Ghost of Mario McGee came to an end, and if you want to qualify Haley's on it as part of that category, honestly, if they had movies of their own, they will probably have to expand when it comes to character growth and whatnot. And when it comes to the Big City Greens characters, there is character growth there, but whenever I think about Cricket and Bill, since that they're mostly the main characters in this movie, it really gave me the impression that they're literally doing something in order to have a father and son movie, but at the same time with the attention focusing on Cricket and his reckless ideals. This isn't really Gravity Falls levels of writing when it comes to characters, emotions, and mostly interactions, because while I'm gonna get to the argument between Bill and Cricket later, the way I see it when it comes to Cricket in this movie, for what he went through in the series when it comes to him doing bad deeds, for being reckless, all the while causing the entire family and the city of Big City into turmoil due to an asteroid launching into the city that could destroy the entire city. Honestly, it is big. I will admit that it's something that Cricket really messed up to the point that if people found out that he caused all of this despite saving their lives, they will probably shrug it off, judging on the fact that this is the type of scenario that Jimmy Neutron would have done. And in this case, if the characters, mainly the citizens in Big City, are like the citizens of Retroville, then I'm pretty sure that the show would have been a lot more mean-spirited. But since that the characters, mainly the citizens, aren't mean-spirited, they probably don't want you to think about what Cricket would have caused involving Big City, because it will probably have too much to put in when it comes to a movie that isn't meant to go really hard. And the reason why that these elements, for me at least, doesn't go too hard is mainly the fact that the Green family are taking a vacation. which is the main focus of this entire film. Hence the title, Big City Queens, the movie Spacecation. And since that they didn't go to the space hotel, mainly the fact that it's really expensive, up until the ending of this movie, we're mainly trying to get every passenger who was on board to the hotel safe and sound when it comes to escaping. It really gave me the impression that with this not being an entirely a road trip movie, since that they never went on the road, and mostly going into outer space to enjoy what it's like outer space, the way that they're treating outer space is supposed to be seriously, but at the same time, in the point of view of cricket, it's mainly the fact that every single character who is in outer space really wants to experience the vacation of a lifetime, considering that the Green family has been doing the exact same vacation year after year after year, considering that cricket really wishes that it's a vacation completely different rather than the same one. Miss Zap, who is the de facto villain, and when I say de facto, is mainly the fact that her unhinged attitude really sums up a lot of the type of character that really puts characters into harm's way, and yet her point of view really is a lot more explored in this and how she was explored in the episode centered around her. So, whenever you think about the space hotel being this expensive, which is $10 million, which is mainly per night depending, and when you completely look into the chaos that what happens in outer space, honestly, the fact that Miss Zap is completely unhinged and the fact that she is mostly the villain of this entire film really says a lot, that if they have Chip, who is a recurring antagonist from the series, being the antagonist in this movie, obviously it wouldn't be set into outer space, because Chip has no knowledge of outer space, nor interested into outer space, unlike Miss Zap is. And with Miss Zap being one of the main characters and de facto antagonists, this is where we get Colin Boyd, who is the commander, all the while listening to all of the instructions from Miss Zap. This is the most serious character in this entire movie, alongside Bill, who is mostly a serious character when it comes to his argument with Cricket later on. But when it comes to Colin herself, with her being mostly exclusive towards this film, which I'm not sure if she's going to return in the series, really makes me question on the fact that if she spent all of her life focusing on protecting people while making sure everything is all set in order to make things a lot more safer for everyone, how did Miss Zap avoid any consequences when it comes to the crisis that she caused towards citizens in Big City when it comes to the pumpkin alien invasion from the second Halloween episode, the bot that took over the farm that caused Bill to be lazy? Well, granted, it wasn't too physical, but at the same time, it was mostly problematic when it comes to Bill's character, and this leads to Colin learning that everything that she went through was all a lie. Like, as much as Chip is a much more worse character than Zap, what makes him better is mainly the fact that he actually knows what he's doing, and when it comes to the power that he has, he uses it to his advantage. And when it comes to the power that Miss Zap has, she is literally so deranged to the point that if she ends up getting consequences by going to jail, I'm pretty sure that she wouldn't even have a second thought. Mainly the fact that she is gonna be behind bars, or probably get banned from Big City in the same ways as what Chip went through when he lost against the Greens. So every time I think about this, it just makes me feel like that Colin seriously needs to put her foot down in front of people if she took everything seriously. And I'm not sure if Miss Zap is going to return, since I haven't watched a lot of Big City Greens episodes when it comes to Season 4 and possibly Season 5. But I'm always going to remember the end credits scene when it comes to her performing a speech in front of everyone and people throwing tomatoes at her. Honestly, there should at least be another episode, mainly in Season 5, where we see more about her rather than her conflict with her kindergarten teacher that really makes her completely deranged to the point that her song, which I'm gonna get to the songs later, really feels forced and not really satisfying if you get the context of it all, while not getting into the world building of this show. When it comes to Gloria and Nancy on Earth, honestly, with the dream team being put into play in the words from Gloria, honestly, this is somewhat interesting considering that this is possibly the only time we're ever going to see Gloria and Nancy together, to the point that Gloria desperately wants to be with someone that is more cool than the Greens from her point of view, considering that she lives with the Greens when it comes to the events of Chip leaving, causing her to be jobless. So it's kind of cool. I mean, if we actually had a plot where it centers around the two from the series and not from this movie alone, honestly, it would have spoiled the impact when it comes to this new chemistry between the two. So, regards of what we've seen involving Miss Zap and her antics, the bits involving Nancy and Gloria are probably the highlights when it comes to that plot in particular. With that out of the way, let's get back to Cricket and Bill, who, with Cricket wanting a different vacation rather than the same one as before, honestly, the idea of going into outer space is way too reckless, considering that it goes a little too overboard, and the fact that he tricked his family into going to outer space thinking it was a simulation. Well, mainly his family, not him. He just lied to them that it was a simulation, which led to his family into legitimate danger. Honestly, if he went the route of going on vacation on Earth, I'm pretty sure that it wouldn't be an exciting movie, even though I view it as mostly a medium-level excitement movie. Even though that it did explore Alice's leg being turned into dust, and Tilly using her journal, and they ended up getting robotic equipment that make them occupied when it comes to the problems. The biggest problem that I have with this movie is that whenever they try to do emotional moments, it just doesn't compare to the emotional moments of what they did in the TV series, considering that they're mostly going through the motions of being in outer space, which honestly, it's basically how they interact with each other. This family isn't always sunshine and rainbows. But with this film focusing on Cricket's recklessness, honestly, it's mainly a demonstration that Cricket can't be able to improve when it comes to his personality and him being so in denial to the point that it makes the other characters from other cartoons who are in denial somewhat redeemable. But I'm not saying that Cricket isn't redeemable. I'm just saying that if they're going to do this story involving a character making things worse, which has been done in previous media, I honestly feel like that there should have been an actual connection when it comes to him learning something from his past. But considering that the characters in this show don't age, and I don't think they're ever going to be aged by the time that this show ends, other than the possible flashback into the future, which isn't really a flashback, but you know what I mean, I really feel like that this would have been a good opportunity to showcase Cricket's wrongdoings, which he did, but at the same time, the film itself is exploring the fact that his reckless ideals are supposed to be a good thing, considering that the family is officially doing something different rather than doing the same vacation over and over again, which led to the transition of Bill's character. Honestly, he wants to make things safe for everyone, but every time I watch him in the series, he is mostly irresponsible like Cricket when it comes to him being addicted to a video game. All the while the other stuff that he did, to the point that while he isn't perfect, it really makes me to believe that if he actually has a scene that was a lot more serious than him stating to Cricket that all of his ideals are bad, and this just leads to Cricket believing that he doesn't like him. I need to be perfectly real with you, the scene itself isn't terrible. It does make sense when it comes to the characters themselves, but the way I see it, this is something that could have easily happened from the series, movie or not. I'm just saying that for how it's structured, it really feels like it's not really that heartbreaking, considering that despite the family not being sunshine and rainbows, this could easily happen in the main series, considering that this is the type of material that Cricket did when it came to doing different things, and his family mostly going along with it, considering that Bill just really wanted a perfect family, but at the same time, he only had one out of the two kids that ended up becoming mostly perfect. Mainly Tilly being the daughter that she wanted, and not the son that he really wanted when it comes to Cricket himself. But this was a missed opportunity to showcase Bill's point of view on Cricket when it comes to the good times that they had back in the years while Cricket was born and getting older and older. And judging on the fact that Tilly is the more older sibling than Cricket, it really makes me to believe that they could have made this a lot more special when it comes to Bill, while doing most of the exciting things in outer space, would have easily seen Cricket as a son that is trying to make things right for him. And while it does imply of the argument between him and Cricket perfectly, I just feel like that, again, this would have happened in the main series when it comes to episodes. I'm just saying, I know they don't need to top any higher than they need to be, but every time I look at this movie when it comes to the characters themselves, it just makes me feel like that this would have been better off as a mini-series and not really much of a movie. I mean, granted, when it comes to a mini-series, they will probably have to include a couple of things, but then again, I'm pretty sure a mini-series involving these characters in outer space would probably be less spectacular in the point of view of the people who made this movie. For me personally, this movie isn't on the same levels as the Loud House movie No Time to Spy, but at the same time, this movie's issue, similar to that movie, is that it could have been mostly better when it comes to the decisions. Like, this movie isn't a terrible movie, it's an average movie at most, but I really feel like that they could have had other liberties to make this movie better than just making it an extended episode from the series. As for this being a musical, I'm not really against it, considering that the show did have songs here and there, especially the karaoke episode. So, when it comes to the 5 songs, including the reprise version of the first song, they're mostly good. The Green Family Vacation song is really entertaining to listen to, especially when it comes to how it builds up to the reveal of it being the same vacation as before, which really made this entire song a bummer, but done in a good way. Rose Rap, sung by Colin Voigt, is one of my least favorite songs. It may be comedic, but at the same time, it does showcase my critiques towards Miss Zap, even though this is mainly catered towards Colin Voigt on being strict, but at the same time, the critiques I've said earlier, it's really difficult to look at Colin Voigt being in a position on being confident when it comes to the strict rules, but at the same time, she's being used, and honestly, there has to be a future episode planned for Colin Voigt seeks revenge against Miss Zap. Seriously, what she got towards the end of the film when it comes to the credits isn't enough. Space is Fun is one of the only songs that really feels accurate. If this was a miniseries, this could be the only song that could be used in the miniseries, but I really feel like that the fall song would also be used, judging of how they do connect it with the characters when it comes to the meaning of the songs, and the meaning of this song of them enjoying in space really feels a lot more accurate than the fall song. Granted, I do enjoy the fall song, and this song is entertaining in its own right. I instantly feel like that this song is literally the top priority if this was mainly a miniseries rather than a movie. Honestly, even if the characters would probably go through multiple obstacles by going into the planets, if they did go through those planets, I'm pretty sure that the miniseries itself would have been a little bit more longer, so they will probably only go through one planet rather than multiple. Mrs. Zap's Lamiet, yes, I understand her real name is the title of the song, but I can't spell her name completely, so I'm gonna call it Mrs. Zap's Lamiet, is my least favorite song. It's not because of the fact that I don't like the lyrics or the music. I can understand it's the style of music that really suits this song, but the reason why I didn't like this song is because the true meaning behind it is way too literal. As I've mentioned earlier, that this centers around Miss Zap's arch nemesis, her kindergarten teacher, who she took it the wrong way, and I'm not talking about her teacher, I meant Miss Zap. If I have to go through multiple characters from this show that really feels out of whack, but mainly for the wrong reasons, obviously, Miss Zap really took it to a different level that even if people may find her humorous in this, for me personally, no. I've always stated earlier that most of this just showcases of how much that it's difficult to instantly see her motivations completely of how unhinged she is, and even when she got the approval from her kindergarten teacher, she shrugs it off. Honestly, even if people still enjoy her character, I can't imagine how the entire premise of the characters going through scenarios when it comes to outer space, including Colin Voigt, who she trusts Miss Zap the most, is all caused due to Miss Zap's issues with her kindergarten teacher. I can only imagine how she felt when it comes to the other teachers that she is on good terms with, but when it comes to one of her first teachers in life, it's really difficult for me to see the lore of characters growing up in Big City. Granted, she wasn't responsible with the asteroids crashing into Earth, which is Cricket's fault, but at the same time, this song really didn't make me feel invested with her, and it just makes me think of more questions rather than finding an answer of the sanity of Miss Zap if she has sanity. As for the final song, well, the following song is a reprise of the Green Family Vacation song. Stuff I said doesn't need to be changed when it comes to the character growth involving Bill, Cricket, including Alice and Tilly, and nothing needs to be changed, but at the same time, this isn't really one of my favorite songs, despite not being one of my least favorite songs in the entire movie. This song would have been more emotional if the development between Cricket and Bill was improved. Because upon listening to this song during my rewatch of this movie, I feel like that this song should have been good as it is, but looking at the issues, I feel like that this could have been more better if everything about the chemistry between Cricket and Bill improved. Because whenever I look at this, it just really feels like that this entire movie is an extended episode of the series, which, in all honesty, is supposed to be an issue where people are supposed to state that as a real criticism towards movies based off of cartoons that don't feel like actual movies. But since that Big City Greens is one of the only Disney Channel shows that has a movie when it comes to other cartoons that didn't get movies of their own from the network, honestly, Disney Channel's biggest flaw is to not make a movie that doesn't feel like an extended episode of the series they made. At times, the song does get emotional when it comes to Tilly singing, but for me personally, even if nothing is broken involving Tilly's part of the song, I feel like that with this ending up becoming a miniseries rather than a movie where it does explore Tilly's character a little bit more, despite what she offers when it comes to her losing her old journal. Honestly, the people who described Cricket being responsible of all this, honestly, I don't blame them when it comes to their opinions, but the movie itself doesn't try too hard to showcase the characters dealing with the cost of what they're going through when it came to Cricket himself. When I think about how this movie will have been a good 6th anniversary despite being released weeks before the 6th anniversary of Big City Greens back in June, since that this movie came out in June of last year, I really feel like that the critiques that I made towards this would have easily made this movie a lot more better when it came to the song itself being more emotional. I'm just saying, if you enjoy this song, that's good. I honestly don't have an issue if you enjoy the song along with the other songs that I have the least happy towards. For the final minutes of this movie, when it comes to the main group trying to move the asteroid away from Big City, which would also lead to the space hotel itself, it's the biggest highlight despite the critiques. The critiques of mainly the plot of the movie, nothing needs to be changed in this, similar to the final song. I feel like with Cricket trying his best to save Big City despite him causing it, really did showcase that he's doing something a lot more bigger than what he went through when it came to Chip trying to put him and his family out of Big City. So the stakes here are much more bigger, and Bill saving his son really made this a lot more better. I'm just saying, the issues that I have with it can instantly make moments like this slightly better, but I really feel like that this was a lot more better than the song that they sang when it came to them being in outer space. I'm just saying, there are ways to make this movie better, so if the song doesn't make this moment impactful, I really feel like that everything that is supposed to be connected would have easily benefited it all if the issues that I've stated earlier improved the writing of this film. Even though that family dynamics aren't something I'm really into. I really feel like that the family dynamic in this is something that could have been something extraordinary when it came to the Green family, despite not being sunshine and rainbows. And the reason why I keep saying that is because I don't want to use the word dysfunctional, because that word is getting a little overused. Putting aside the action sequences, which are underrated at most, this movie really feels like that this should have been a more bigger movie for the fans of the series. Now, if you still view this movie as a really big movie when it comes to what you enjoy, no problem at all, more power to you. But I feel like this movie, with it being released to the 6th anniversary of Big City Greens, almost, I feel like that this would have been a lot more better when it came to my critiques. I don't view this movie as bad. It's better than the Lounge House movie No Time to Spy, but at the same time, I feel like with this show being slightly better than the Lounge House, there was some potential in order to make this movie somewhat worthwhile when it came to it being released just weeks before the 6th anniversary of Big City Greens. Granted, the people who made this movie didn't have the intent to release it for the 6th anniversary, but they still have the opportunity to make this movie better, judging of how that this show has becoming one of the longest running Disney Channel cartoons recently, to the point that it just makes me feel like that if this show's excuse of lasting longer than Amphibia, The Outhouse, and The Ghost of Maya McGee, along with Haley's on it, that ended up getting cancelled, except the first show that I mentioned, I really feel like that if they're going to make the episodes having similar premises, they seriously need to up their game when it came to this movie. And while they did succeed okay, they could have succeeded a lot more extraordinarily. I doubt we're gonna be getting another movie from this franchise, but if the people are planning on making a sequel, if Disney is willing to continue on with this franchise, then I really expect them to actually make the sequel better than this movie. If you find some positives in this movie, you will probably think to yourself, if they're going to be making another movie and you're on board with it, you will probably think that the sequel will probably be better than the first, considering that even if I can't change people's opinions towards this film, I just feel like that the sequel, if it's gonna happen, could easily improve on the character relationships, judging of how that this movie was really planned when it came to Disney showing favoritism towards this show and Cliff. But less said about that, the better. Honestly, this movie is the best space movie when it comes to cartoons, considering that the only space movie that I've watched was mainly the Tom and Jerry movie Blast Off to Mars. But then again, judging the fact that I'm not a fan of that franchise anymore, it's not really much of a competition that this movie is worth seeing through when it comes to characters going into outer space. So kickstarting the new year with this movie wasn't the best, but then again, last year wasn't really a good start when I reviewed a really bad episode from a cartoon. So it really feels even, considering that in 2023 I kicked things off the new year with an original idea, so not every year needs to start off something good. I just feel like that me reviewing this movie, it could be long overdue if people are mostly interested into me talking about a movie that is from a franchise that I'm also into. With that being said, I'm giving Spacecation a 6.25 out of 10. It could have been a better movie, but then again, I'm not against people who find this movie entertaining or view it much more better than I do. If you enjoy Big City Queens as its own thing, and you don't mind the series still continuing, then that's totally fine. And let's be truthfully real, this show isn't responsible of the cancellation of other shows from Disney Channel. Because if I seriously hear another person stated that this franchise is the reason why Disney Channel cartoons keep getting cancellations, then, in all honesty, how would you feel if your favorite show that is similar to Big City Queens get cancelled despite having more episodes? Honestly, I wouldn't be complaining if this show ends up getting cancelled, but at the same time, it will also not have a conclusion regardless. And I don't even view Big City Queens as the reason why multiple Disney Channel shows have been cancelled, even when the finale of The Owl House came out nearly 2 years ago. If anything, people have been viewing this show as the SpongeBob or Teen Titans Go of Disney Channel, which, if it's the case, I'm not buying it. This show has less bad episodes compared to those two shows, and regardless if the SpongeBob movies, mainly the first two, are better than this movie, I can guarantee you that the Teen Titans Go movie, along with the other projects, while maybe good in their own right, honestly, I would probably sit through this over those movies. I'm just saying. Just because this show is lasting longer than necessary doesn't automatically make me think that this show is the reason why other shows from the network are getting cancelled. It is a shame that shows are getting the axe, but at the same time, Big City Queens isn't responsible. Besides, if Phineas and Ferb were still airing, would you feel Phineas and Ferb as the reason why those shows are getting the axe? No, not really.